This demo covers the work log. The work log is the actions taken on a ticket. First comes in, then you diagnose it, then you might have to order parts, then the parts come in, then you start the repair, etc. Those individual actions are work log entries. You are allowed to customize your work log entries, customize the display order and the drop downs that appear on the interface for your technicians to select. You can customize the text that appears, and you can also predefine the defaults for these work log entries. Some of these defaults can actually be sent to the customer automatically if you choose so, but that's in a different demo called messaging. Let's begin by looking at a ticket first to review the work log. Once in the ticket area, I'm going to just go ahead and view the second ticket down. As you can see, the service item is a keyboard, a Rhodes keyboard, and the reason for service is they think it's a bad power supply, not sure. And so now the technician is going to diagnose the power supply, but before he starts work he's going to add an entry in the work log. Let's see how that's done. Okay, you can see the type of work performed is actually the work log entry that we're going to select, and it actually will be our customized list that we create. So let's see what it looks like. Okay, what you're looking at here is the default work log entries, all enabled. I haven't done any editing yet. We're going to edit this list in just a bit. But since Joe is going to diagnose the power supply, he's going to put in the work log that he's diagnosing the issue. Let's see how that's done. After making a selection, the default detailed text automatically appears. You can leave it as is, or the technician can select it, edit it, and change it. It's all up to you. Notice that the text includes the word keyboard. In other words, the text knew what repair or service item it was working on. This came from the database. You'll see how to do this. The technician is going to leave it as is and just click Submit to save. And there's our new work log entry. Now let's take a look at managing our work log entries. We'll begin by going back to the Administration Center. Remember, only admins see the admin button. Most techs don't, but we're in admin, so let's go ahead and go to the Admin Center and selecting Settings. Before we go to the work log entries, I want to talk about remote vendors real quick. Again, remote vendors are people who exist off-site who do customized repair. For example, if you have a very fancy watch and you don't repair it, you ship it to the remote vendor. The remote vendor takes a look at it, maybe provides you a quote. You accept the quote or reject the quote. If you accept it, he performs the work and then ships the item back. That's a remote vendor, and there's a lot of messaging that can be done and a lot of work log entries that can be entered, such as shipped to vendor, that we need to manage. I'm going to scroll down just a bit. Under the repair preferences, there is the enable remote vendors, and right now it's set to yes. Your options are yes or no. Let's take a look at that. And I'm going to leave it as yes enabled for now and point out the remote messages in the work log. Now let's jump to the work log entries. I have to scroll up a bit to do that. The work log entries and work log management has its own tab on the settings, so let's click that. At the time of this demo, there were 26 individual work log entries that you could choose. Right now I have all 26 enabled. You can see the first 5 here and the display order as shown on the far right. The first work log entry, reason for service, is fixed, and what I mean by that is it always displays first. That's because when a part comes in or a repair item comes in, the first thing you do is say what's wrong with it. That's reason for service. You can change the text of reason for service to anything you want. Item under repair. It's all up to you. In addition, you can change the default detail, as you saw earlier, that appears once the selection is made. Notice that some of these have braces around keywords such as service item. This is how you saw the keyboard appear prior. It takes the service item of the ticket and replaces service item with the actual value, such as keyboard. To see all the keywords that are available, click the help icon and you will see the list. Now I'm going to scroll down just a splash. As you begin to experiment with work log entries, you might at any given time want to reset the whole thing back to the defaults. You can do that by clicking on the click here to reset work log area, and it will reorder and replace all work log entries, including the ones that you removed. I mentioned remote vendors earlier, and as you can see, there's a couple that you can see here. For example, shipped to vendor, received by vendor, quote complete, quote accepted, etc. If you had remote vendors turned off, these work log entries would automatically disappear and you wouldn't see them here. Now I'm going to scroll down a bit. Continuing reviewing the 26 entries, you can see other things such as need parts ordered, parts received, pending approval, etc. Each one of these can be customized. For example, pending approval might be changed, customer response can be changed, and what I mean by that is how it appears in the drop-down, and also the default detail once it's selected. And again, I'm going to scroll down some more. Okay, following all of the used work log entries is a list of not used work log entries. Right now, since I'm at the default, I have 0 not used. You use the drop downs on the far right in order to define the order and appearance of these things, including the not used. Now let's make some edits. For example, let's say I don't have any quality control, and I also don't use bench testing. Let's remove these work log entries so they don't clutter up my interface. As you can see from the drop-down, you can select Not Used or the order of appearance. The reason number 2 is listed as the first order is because reason number 1 is always fixed, and that's reason for service. And again, you can change reason for service to repair issue or whatever you want. But let's go ahead and continue by removing the quality control and bench testing. Now I'm going to scroll up a bit and do some more editing before I click Submit. In my shop, when there's an alert on a ticket, I want that to be pretty easy to find. So I'm going to go ahead and move the alert work log entry real close to the top. Let's do that. And now for demonstration purposes, I'm going to go ahead and change the need parts order to something a little more custom. You should note here that if you do not want to have a default detail message, all you do is clear it out to absolutely nothing, and then the technician will have to type something in from scratch. Note to self. I'm done with my edit, so I need to submit to save. Notice that alert is now in position number 2, but diagnosing was also in position number 2. This is technically okay because RepairTRAX will display all the 1s, then all the 2s, then all the 3s if you have multiple duplicate numbers. However, I'm going to go ahead and clean it up just a little bit. Now I have 2 number 3s, but I realize that I don't do any researching, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of researching. And then I'm going to scroll all the way down and submit. Okay, the order looks good as expected. Now let's go back to the work log entries on a ticket and see how it's been affected. Let's go ahead and add to the work log and play around a bit and see our changes. Now when I click on the drop down to select a work log entry, I should see my custom changes. Let's see. As expected, we see our edits. Notice that alert modification is in position number 2 as expected. Parts ordered pending with the big pending is in the proper location. And all of the quality control and bench testing items have been removed as expected. Since each one of these work log entries has an optional default text, when I select a given work log entry, I should see that text. Let's see. There it is. It's a pretty basic one with no database keywords embedded in it. Let's take a look at a couple of messages that have database keywords in it and see what happens. Notice that it says working on the keyboard now. Keyboard came from a keyword entry in the default text. Same thing if I choose diagnosing The default text had a keyword tag of service item in it, and it replaced service item with the word keyboard, the item being serviced. But let's go back to parts needed ordering. The default is there. I can edit it if I want, but I'm just going to leave it alone. And then click Submit to save. And there we go. Our new work log entry with our custom work log text and our default work log description or detail. That's it for this demo.